Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike and today I have 4 guests with me and we are going to talk about Promptbooks in Copilot for Security. Mamta reached out to me for this episode, so Mamta, please start and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Heike. Hi, I'm Mamta Kumar. I'm a product manager in the customer experience Entra engineering team, focusing on Copilot for Security Entra skills. Over to you, Amit.
Hey folks, this is Amit. I'm a product manager in the customer experience engineering team for Intune, and I'm working on Copilot and Intune scenarios.
Perfect. So then we have Dana, please.
Hi everyone. Very excited to be here with you. I'm Dana, product manager from MDI, Defender XDR.
Perfect. And then last but not least, Patrick.
Last but not least, Patrick David here. I also work at Microsoft. I'm on the customer experience team, focusing on Purview space, Microsoft Purview space, and Copilot for security in that space. So excited to be here.
Super excited because it's a lot of different products and I feel like we have some goodness to share across these products. So we're talking Promptbooks. Before we get into the specific Promptbooks here, can someone please clarify again, what are Promptbooks? Why are they being used? What are they? Can you create them? Are they there? Just a quick summary.
So Promptbooks in Microsoft Copilot for Security contain one or more prompts that have been put together to accomplish specific administrative or security-related tasks. They run one prompt after another, building on previous responses.
And one prompt book, when you said it has different prompts, is one prompt book for one product? Or can the orchestrator then for every prompt in that prompt book go out for a different product again?
It's cross-product.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's cross-product, and I think that's like the value that we're going to show today really is like the ability to kind of use that prompt book to go across products. So we're really excited about what we have.
Yeah, so is this new?
Yeah, Promptbook isn't new, like to your next question. They've been there in the product. The fact that they're available for customers to write and save makes it repeatable and useful across the entire organization. So each of the product owners can essentially write their own prompt books and then be able to save that and then be able to execute that for their organizations. And it provides you access across all of the products from within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. That is phenomenal.
So, and I think because the 4 of you got together, that we have a prompt book that goes across your product areas. But before we get there, like, how did you guys get together and build that prompt book? Or like what made you actually think about specific prompt books across these different products?
We started with Entra skills and then customers said, hey, this is all great. However, I also want to see more information about this user from Intune. And what is this user doing? Bring me the information from Purview. Bring me everything you can all together in one single pane of glass. And that's how we all came together to deliver this.
That's perfect. So whilst someone can type their own prompts or write their own prompt book, sometimes it's not clear, what can I ask and what are the specific things that Copilot for Security can get out of the product. So is this one of the values of these predefined prompt books?
Absolutely. So as each of us across the security products are building these skills, you no longer have to wonder what is supported, what is not supported. Can Copilot for Security answer such questions? Our prompt books gives you pre-curated built-in prompts. So you don't have to figure out what should I really type to get an answer. So prompt books will save you time, whereas you can just use our prompt books to get the information that you're looking for your end-to-end scenarios.
Yeah, and as we all know, prompting is that expertise that someone needs to talk to Copilot for Security. And that can be tricky to get the right question. So I love that we actually provide some predefined questions and now put them into these prompt books. And the prompt books, are they like for specific users or everybody, like, of course, the one that a security analyst, like what is your audience for this one?
Yeah, so I think the audience here is the IT admins, right? And we've got folks that do this. I think that the really important part of Promptbooks too is the ability to rerun this playbook over and over again, right? So you're not having to ask these same questions. If you need to come in, you need to ask something, you can do that with a prompt book, right? And it's a set of questions that are predefined. And then you provide it some variables in here. So Amit, I think you wanted to add some additional insights there.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. All I want to say was, oftentimes customers ask that, hey, I found this awesome, cool thing that works for me, that is repeatable, that we want to be able to use in our environment. How can I make it repeatable for the rest of the folks within my organization? How can I share the work instead of giving them just a simple prompt and asking them to continue to repeatedly type it out? So that's where the Promptbook also adds value, because it's available for the user, it's available for the organization, and there is the ability to make it available for everybody in the organization.
Awesome, thank you. So, and the Promptbook that you're going to present us now is going across. We have Intune, Microsoft Entra, and Purview. And did I miss one?
And Defender for Identity.
And Defender for Identity. See, so what is the reason? Like, what do you want to get out of it? So what is the result that you're looking for?
Just sharing an example, as we talk to customers, some of the customers who've had a preview of this Promptbook are saying, hey, when can I start using it? I'm going to put all my VIPs on this list in order to get this entire summary of what's going on with users. So what we are looking to get is to make our customers' lives easier, and we are already hearing that. So looking forward to many of our customers trying this out.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think like the customer feedback that we've gotten, the insights we've gotten from this is like, we want the larger view, right? We need to understand not only maybe what they're doing in Entra, but what are they doing with the data risk of their Purview space? What are they doing in Intune, right? There's devices compliance. So customers are wanting to be able to expand across the multiple solutions that we have in this space. And I think that's really the value that Copilot for Security can bring to customers with a prompt book like this. So
they want an end-to-end view, which is exactly what is being presented here.
So yeah, I'm curious to see what you brought with you. So let's have a look.
Thank you so much, IK. So for Promptbooks, we'll basically use the Copilot for Security standalone experience. And in order to access and use the Copilot for Security experience, we need to be added to either the Copilot owner or Copilot contributor role. And this can be assigned through the role assignments blade itself. Now, next we are looking at the Promptbook library experience itself. We've got the All tab, we've got the My Promptbook tab, the Woodgroove tab, and the Microsoft tab. And in each of these tabs, you would see various different Promptbooks that have either been created by the organization, for the organization, that have been created by Microsoft. So in this particular case, when we are clicking on Microsoft, we are seeing all of the Promptbooks that have been created by Microsoft for our customers. And here is an example of one of the Promptbooks that you can see and utilize.
So with the Promptbook, you don't have to design or create your own prompts. As you see, you can share the existing Promptbook with teammates in your tenant, or you can create your own personalized Promptbook. You can duplicate the existing Promptbook by making edits or adding or removing prompts as you deem fit for your use case. You can also control access to this Promptbook by making it available only to you or anyone else in your organization. And this is how you control access to the Promptbook. Now let's look at another way to invoke a Promptbook. You can also do that by going to the prompt bar, which is towards the bottom of the standalone experience. And when you click on the sparkle button, this will surface the Promptbooks that are available for you to use.
So quick question, Mamta. You made a duplicate of an existing Promptbook, and you did this with the share button. So share is then share with me. So it's not a duplicate copy, it's a share, and then you rename it, and then it's another one.
So if I have an existing Promptbook that I created, and then we are talking about the Promptbook, and you are saying, hey, Mamta, which Promptbook am I looking at? I can send you a direct link. And I can do that with anybody in my tenant, as long as that Promptbook is accessible and set up in such a way that anybody in the organization can access it. However, if I made it such that only I can access it, that share button is not going to let you see the prompt book because I set it up so that only I can see it.
Okay, good. So the share button was really a share button and not a button to duplicate the prompt book.
Right. And there is another button, the square next to a square, that is the duplicate button. So
Got
you
it.
can
Okay.
take an existing one that either you made or Microsoft made or somebody in your tenant made. However, you want it to be slightly different. In that case, you duplicate it, add and remove, make changes as you deem fit, and then you have your own personalized prompt book.
Yeah, perfect.
So let's talk about why we are doing this. Patrick, you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, so as I think we've talked about a little bit earlier, this was really came from our customers that needed to have a cross-functional view of what's going on in their organization, right? And so we've heard from multiple customers about wanting to be able to look across their security products and get that broad, wide-angle view of what's going on in the environment. And we know this is super important, especially as we're looking at security incidents and being able to quickly address or understand what the potential risk is with this. And so we've built a prompt book here going across multiple solutions to give that wide view for customers and organizations to see what's going on. So
I think this is also, I like to add the value of the standalone experience. Like you don't have to hop across different portals. As of now, when I'm in the Defender portal, I can ask Defender questions. So the standalone experience can then go out to query additional products and connectors that you have. Good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. I think like we have the embedded experiences are really great at like summarizing when you're working within a solution. But if you've got to do that kind of cross-solution hunting, the standalone experience brings that value, right? So you've got one place that you're going to ask these questions, and you don't have to jump to multiple solutions to get the answers, right? I think that's a super valuable point.
Good. So now, Mamta.
Let's dive into the prompt book. So, as Patrick was mentioning, this is one cross-product prompt book that we've put together, and it's one of our global prompt books that you will see soon. It's called Microsoft User Analysis, and an IT admin can use this to analyze and get a closer look into users, and not just member users, but also guest users in your tenant. And using this prompt book, you can get detailed insights from Entra, Intune, Purview, and Defender, summarizing and highlighting important detections. So let's dive into a quick demo.
Yes.
In this demo, I am the IT admin, Sandeep Banerjee. In Copilot for Security, I have the Copilot contributor role, as Amit was showing. This role enables me to run Copilot for Security prompts. I will also need additional RBAC roles to read data across the different security products. Now, as an IT admin at Woodgrove, I often need to investigate users suspected of doing prohibited activities. With our cross product prompts, I can seamlessly get a 360-degree view of a user without needing to hop across portals. If anything looks suspicious, there's also a handy link straight to the portal for me to dive deeper into the data. Today, we will give you a walkthrough of one of our global cross-product prompt books, Microsoft User Analysis, that an IT admin can use to analyze and get a closer look into users in the directory. You can use this prompt book for both members and guest users. This includes sign-in and authentication data from Entra, device information from Intune, unusual activity details from Purview, and a Defender summary highlighting important detections.
So there was just a mentioning of you need additional RBAC for additional products. So can you give me a little bit more details on that?
Absolutely. So Copilot for Security, as you might be aware of, runs under the context of the user, right? So anything that we're asking Copilot to do, including a prompt book, the user needs the ability to access those solutions to get that data. So with this prompt book, obviously we're working across 4 different solutions here. You need the proper rights to access those. So to access Entra, you need the global reader access. You also need security reader access for Entra, Intune, and Defender. And then for Microsoft Purview, you need the insider risk management investigator or analyst roles in order to access the information in those solutions.
So, and if I don't have the permissions, I just don't get anything back, or does Copilot for Security tell me, sorry, I can't give you that information. So how do I know the difference between I don't have the permissions versus nothing comes back? There is no record.
Yeah, great question. So for most prompts, it'll tell you that you don't have the permissions to access the data and that you would need the required permissions in order to do that. For example, when we look at the Purview one, for example, which is the area that I focus in, it'll actually come up and say, hey, you don't have the proper rights. Please work with your admin to get those rights to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so for this prompt book, we also have inputs that are required. So with any prompt book, you can set up some required fields that are required. In this one, there's 8 different prompts that we have, and these prompts have some variables that you can provide. In this case, we're providing the user UPN and a duration of how far we want to look back. So in this case, we're going to actually start the demo with a user in our environment called Natasha David, and we're going to look at a duration of 14 days to understand what her potential risk is here.
And duration means the last 7 days, last 14 days, or yeah, okay.
That's correct. Yeah. So we're looking back in time, obviously looking at what particular activity that user had. We don't know what the future has for us. So, but yes, this duration would be going back, and the current duration max is 30 days with this. So
okay, good to know. Thank you. Could you fill out all the fields right away, or do you need to wait until something comes back? Because I would assume, run the prompt book, and I don't want to sit in front of it and wait for every time I need to enter something again.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you provide the variables at the beginning, and then you can basically go grab a cup of coffee or go do some other activity, which is really the value that prompt books have, right? You're not sitting there having to log into multiple different solutions to get back responses or get the answers. You can basically kick something off and go do another task that you need to, and then come back to this.
Okay.
So now let's dive into the first prompt. Tell me about the user. So Copilot goes, looks up this information from Microsoft Entra, and as we can see, Natasha is a remote employee in our sales department at Woodgrove. She joined our company just earlier this year. I can see her job title, department, as well as both business and mobile phone numbers. And here's a direct link to the user management page in the Entra portal for more details. I can also share this session link with my colleagues here so that they can also do further investigation. We can also open the Entra user management page to dive deeper. Over to you, Amit, for Intune.
Thank you so much, Mamta. So here, let's dive into the second prompt. So you'll notice that we are asking what devices are associated with the above user. Notice that we use the contextual statement and refer to the above user, which happens to be Natasha David. We didn't have to specifically mention Natasha David over there. Copilot for Security is smart and understands that natural language context switching and the ability to focus on the natural element of being a human versus the machine, where you need to specifically supply the actual parameters itself. So that's something that's pretty cool about Copilot for Security and kind of continuing in the prompt book experience. Now, if we move on forward with the video, this particular prompt book itself lists her Intune managed devices. In this case, we see there are various different devices that Natasha David has. And there is also a non-compliant device. The device shows up as non-compliant because it's not meeting the required criteria for a particular policy, which is Defender for Endpoint Device Risk. And being non-compliant means it may potentially block Natasha from accessing certain resources because the organization may have conditional access policies and will eventually hamper her productivity. So that visual and that insight is immediately visible for the administrator to act upon. It also provides, earlier you saw there was a link that sent you directly to the Intune console itself, which is what you're seeing over here. And it shows that it failed on the second policy. So overall, the prompt books make data access really more streamlined, and it makes us very efficient by reducing the number of clicks that you may have to perform otherwise trying to go into each of these portals, and brings that information into a singular pane of glass view and helps the administrator achieve their goals.
I love that it also goes in context to the other product. Like it's not just opening the Intune portal and then go find it.
Exactly.
It's going to this is the not compliant device section.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So what do we want to know next? I mean, we know the user, we know the devices. Now we want to know, are there maybe some confidential information or something? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Not yet, though we want to give you the full picture. So just hold that thought. Okay, so the next thing we want to show is about Natasha's login activity. Has Natasha been active lately or is she MIA? So here we see that her last login was yesterday. It was a failed attempt. She tried to log in from San Angelo, Texas using the Firefox browser on her Windows 10 device to access her work email. So we want to ensure our users have strong authentication methods set up.
So first, what is MIA? And then also, what is that failed attempt or so?
Yeah, when I said MIA, I actually meant missing. So, oftentimes there are remote employees and we do not know whether they are on leave or vacation or traveling. So, by MIA, I just meant to make sure that the employee is able to log in and is able to continue being productive. Here, the failed attempt is a little bit curious to me because I want to make sure that it was Natasha who's logging in. However, I am not sure if she traveled to Texas. So this is something I should definitely dive in and explore a little more.
By calling her.
Calling her or her manager, or just looking at whether there has been any travel activity or anything else suspicious going on with her account.
So how do you do this?
Looking at more of her login history and what else is going on with the account. So here that we saw a failed sign in, let's dive into the next prompt because I want to make sure that the person who's logging in from Texas is indeed Natasha. So how do we do that? Let's look at this next prompt that has to do with authentication methods. So let's look at what authentication methods are set up for Natasha. So it pulls Entra and let's see what Natasha has configured. Here we can see that Natasha is using password, a Microsoft Authenticator app on her phone, and also Windows Hello for Business, which is a phishing resistant cred. So if I require phishing resistant cred, a malicious user should not be able to get into her account. So from the account perspective, her account looks pretty strong. I just have to make sure that I have policies in place requiring strong creds. And if I want to verify this information, I can go to the authentication methods page in the Entra portal and look up that information.
Pretty cool.
Now that we know that Natasha has strong authentication methods, let's see if anybody's doing anything weird with her account. So let's look at some of her failed sign-in attempts. And I do see a bunch. So here I see the San Angelo, Texas that we just reviewed. I also see Germany and Mentor, Ohio. Well, she's a sales rep, so maybe she is traveling.
So, but you can't travel that fast from Texas to Germany and back and forth.
Yeah, so that looks like maybe her account is compromised. In that case, Natasha has strong auth methods. Maybe I should use additional CA policies requiring those strong phishing resistant auth methods on all of these resources because we do not want attackers or a malicious user getting into her account, especially since we saw that somebody was trying to get into her email.
But do we have a successful login as well, or do we have just failure right now?
As we can see here, we do see some successful attempts as well. Now, we want to make sure that it is indeed Natasha who's signing in. So definitely going to have her reset her password and use strong authentication for the resources she's accessing.
So I guess, of course, you want to do more investigation, but a good approach would also be probably reset her account, kick her out wherever she is right now. But let's continue with our investigation first.
Right. So now that we saw that there were failed sign-in attempts and we think that maybe something weird is going on, let's look at her audit activities. So it's pulling up from Entra and it's showing that a password was reset. Now we want to make sure it was Natasha who reset the password and not the malicious user. So we see a bunch of activity going on here. We definitely need to dive in, revoke her existing tokens, make sure that she resets her passwords and uses her strong creds for accessing resources.
So, and given that there was a password reset, I guess now maybe we want to know if data has been accessed. I want to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that's a great next logical step, right? So we've understood now what the user's been up to, some suspicious logins. What have they been doing with the actual data associated with this, right? And so that's where the prompt comes in here. We're asking Microsoft Purview, what are those suspicious activities that this user is doing, right? Is the actual user doing this stuff, or is it now maybe more leaning towards a compromised maybe account? And so with Microsoft Purview inside of risk management, we have the ability here to also stitch together events. So not only exfiltration type activities that we can see here, but also sequence type activities. So maybe someone, in this case, right, we're assuming maybe this is a compromised account. This account took some sensitive files, downgraded the labels on those accounts, maybe renamed them, and then uploaded them to a SharePoint site or copied them to a USB device over a time period. So again, we looked at the window here and 14 days, but here we were able to actually see some of that exfiltration type activity occurring. And then there's a link here, right? So if I've got the proper rights that we've talked about before, I can actually go into our insider risk management solution and look at the full activity associated with this particular user, Natasha in this case.
Okay, so we had Entra ID, we also had Intune, and we had Purview. So I'm missing Dana with Defender for Identity. So I think, Dana, you're bringing that home now.
Yes, well, thank you, Heike. Copilot takes the settings of the user together with their actual activities, and they look for some discrepancies or anomalies. For example, if the user is located in a certain location, and configured, for example, from the United States, but they were logged in from different places. Or, for example, if the user has a job title of, let's say, an HR position, and they have a role of a global administrator, which is not quite secure. One important thing I would like to mention about the login locations, many of our customers actually see that the login locations are different than the configured ones. And this is something that affects geodata regulations. Because if the user is misconfigured for their location, then this is bad and we have to fix it. Here, Copilot identifies this and alerts for fixing the settings.
I also saw something about no assigned roles. Is this like privileged roles or something? So where is this information coming from?
This information comes from identity tables. We actually fetch all this data and we give it to Copilot for further analysis. For example, if an account is disabled, but some roles are still there on this account, then this is something wrong and should be fixed. On the contrary, if there are no roles for the position and the account is active, then maybe this is something also that worth checking.
Mm-hmm. So, but this would also highlight as a possible risk if it was like an administrator or a global admin or something, right? If there was like with high privileges, a role.
Right. This skill also checks whether there are too frequent changes to the roles and when they were last changed, which is also important for the customer to see whether this user was picked for some playings.
Okay, wow. So I think, every incident is interesting, at least the ones that people bring to my show. But, going across all these different products in a prompt book, this is so powerful. And especially as people start learning with Copilot for security, like what are the prompts, what I should ask, what is also the right sequence, right? So you can't ask some questions maybe if you didn't ask and get the information back before. So Thank you so much for bringing this to the episode, to the Ninja Show. I hope that many, many people will go and try it out, that are working with Copilot for security or trying it out and getting their hands dirty. And thank you guys. If you have more prompt books coming in the future, I hope one of you will knock at my door and I will have you back in one of the next episodes. Thanks everyone for watching, and hope to see you soon.